welcome! I'm Amy, and I am joined by Academy Award-winning special effects makeup artists Neill and Steve Laporte. Yay! Thank you. Yay! Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to get to talk to you guys because you've done so much. So we'll delve into that a little bit later, but first I want to throw it all the way back. How did you two meet?
Under the Rainbow.
Under the Rainbow, yeah.
1980, I believe. Yeah.
Chevy Chase.
Yeah. Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Our friend Fred Phillips was the department head.
Yeah.
Fred is that name you might recognize on all the old Star Trek episodes.
Yeah.
And V and Fred did the first Star Trek movie together.
Yeah.
And I met Fred, and he brought me in to do some lab work for some stunt doubles, and that's where I met V in person. And she was getting ready for a big Halloween party, I think. So I helped her with the Halloween party, and we became, lifelong friends after that.
What was it about her that you're like, wow, like we could really work well together? What was it?
She had a short haircut with a bat cut in the back of it.
That's so cool.
I thought this gal's really cool.
That's awesome. What was it about him that you're like, yeah, he's pretty cool?
He was very jovial and really easy to get along with, and I found out that he was actually originally a Ringling Brothers clown. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Not a scary clown.
No, yeah, not a scary clown.
A funny one.
Friendly one. Yeah. So. Yeah. Now, what other projects have you guys collaborated on?
Well, we won an Oscar together for Beetlejuice. And before that, we did the film. Thank you.
Yeah,
And before that, we did a little film, not very well known, called The Lost Boys.
Oh. Yeah. Wait, we should clap for that one too.
Which is actually still one of my favorite films that I ever worked on. So that's pretty cool.
Wow, that's amazing. How do you guys continue to challenge yourself as artists? Because especially with everything changing, I feel like, in film and everywhere, honestly, how do you continue to push that whatever?
I'm going to let you answer that one.
Well, I think it's the type of projects you choose to work on. When I first got in the business, I came in kind of through the makeup lab community. And from that, I was exposed to all the makeup skills it takes to make prosthetics. And that's what I wanted to do, is make prosthetics and change people physically.
That's so cool.
But you have to make a living, so you do have to learn regular beauty makeup and straight makeup, especially if you get into the union and move forward. But I did probably half of my career doing feature films, and then during a break in work, I jumped onto a little TV show called Lost,
Yeah.
which was all shot in Hawaii.
Come on, let's just.
And it was literally me, myself, and I doing all of the special makeup. I had local people who were talented, but I had to teach and show and share with them the new techniques that I had picked up along the way. And I was certainly thankful for the 15 years prior to that I had learned all the skills, all the little blood gags, all the little surgical gags, all the working fast in the middle of the jungle and applying makeup situations. And so I produced and made all the prosthetics that were used in the show, some big, some little, but it really taught me how to work efficiently and multitask in the television world.
Yeah.
And then you did those seasons on Code Black.
Code Black was a medical show.
Yeah.
I had worked on ER years before as a day player from time to time, or when someone was out, I would come in for a few weeks. And because of all the, I'm going to call them blood gags, I had to do on Lost, it kind of led into a few other things. I did some back to movies again, and then Code Black came along, and it was a lot of emergency medicine, squirting blood, missing limbs, a lot of really elaborate engineered gags and blood effects and special makeup effects. With a lot of prosthetics, a lot of accidents. Code Black is a term when every resource in a hospital emergency room is exhausted. You're out of beds, you're out of doctors, you're out of nurses. That's when you see people lined up in the halls. If you ever see a movie about a big disaster and people are just lined up everywhere, in essence, that's what Code Black stands for. And it's a term that was developed during a stint of the original county hospital in Los Angeles.
Whoa.
And a young intern filmed a documentary called Code Black, which introduced the whole story to the world.
I
And
didn't
then
know
that's
that.
what our show was based on.
Wow.
And I'm sure that doctor got to pay off his medical, all your student loans. He became executive producer and a hands-on producer on working with me and the other actors
That's
on how
cool.
to present it. So, it was, and I call him from once in a while. He still works in the emergency room in New York.
Wow.
Oh,
And I called him the other day and said, hey, I've got a guy whose face is, what have you got for me? So he tries to collaborate when he can.
Whoa.
But nice young fellow named Ryan McGarry. So
That's
And
so
Steve
cool.
just wrote a class for cinema makeup school, and it's all about the blood gags.
Nice.
So we just had like a week-long blood class, which nobody else offers, and he wrote the whole syllabus for it, and it's absolutely amazing. They had so much fun. Everybody was squirting, they had blood going. It was pumping and peeling and squirting, and it was like, it was stuff everywhere. And the cool thing about it is, Steve not only has, the ability to make all these things and show them how to do it, but what was so cool about the class is he's got the actual prosthetic, so you can see how that works, and he's got pictures from Code Black about the prosthetics that he made and how they were on the actor. But then he also has the footage from the show
Oh, nice.
of what it looks like once you operate that gag.
Yeah. when
And so
you're
it gives
moving.
the students like a whole backstory on how to make it, what it looks like when it's on, and what you're actually going to see once you start filming it. Because a lot of times you don't see everything, you just see like little bits and pieces of it. But it's really cool because you have to hide things behind people and around corners and in the back of their head and up their arm. And so, he had to show them how to do all that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting because you get to see all the camera angles and everything. It was really cool. It's a cool class.
I didn't even think of that. Like, I didn't think that you had to hide stuff behind people's heads sometimes, which
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense, because where are you going to put it?
Or down their leg or up their arm or wherever,
when digital cameras came in, it was easy just to grab a quick picture. And I started cataloging stuff about 10 years ago. Just in the middle of makeup, I'd take every step of it, not only for me in continuity, if I had to pass the makeup off to someone else, but I knew someday I wanted to teach. So I started cataloging and taking pictures of a lot of stuff. And I have a small studio at home I work in, and I would put my camera up in a corner. Now it's iPhones or whatever type of phone you may have. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to make a mold today, and I'll talk to the camera and I'll make the mold.
Oh.
So I've got a lot of that stuff kind of hidden in the coffers of my, electronic photograph somewhere. And the blood class was we kind of started off this last week, and now I see some things to tweak on it and make it better.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a continuing thing. Education is always changing and evolving. Just like blood, it flows wherever you want it to go and has a mind of its own.
Oh, that was good.
So-
that was so
Nice
good.
segue.
That was great. That was fantastic. I know you've answered this on the show before, but feel free to chime in. But for the both of you, what inspires you when you're creating a work of art on someone's face or body?
I get inspired by just, first of all, our inspiration has to come from a script. And I know I've said this before, but we have to have a script and something to go on. And once we get that, you have a conversation with the director, and you have a conversation with the costumer, and you get all of these. Your inspiration comes from building the character. Where do they live? What do they wear? What does their hair look like? And that's how you build your character, and that's how you get your inspiration, is from their surroundings, not so much yours, but their surroundings. So that their surroundings has to inspire you to create the character where that character lives. It's just like Cleopatra. Where does she live?
Yeah.
How does she wind up looking like that? Because
She's been through stuff.
yeah.
Yes.
So
for
that's
sure.
kind of our inspiration in the movie business. It has to come from that sort of it's dictated by where they live and all of those things.
what they do.
Mm-hmm.
What about
I think a lot of it also has to be aware of your surroundings and constantly looking at different people, different things around you. I mean, I see people walking down the street looking at their phone and they don't see anything around them.
Yeah.
And I don't come from that generation, because if I want to be inspired for makeup, and let's just say it's a a person living alone on a desert island, I think back at homeless people I may have seen, or people in despair, and things we've had to do. What was the film The Soloist that you did?
Oh, yeah.
And I came in to help you, and they bust in real homeless people from the mission,
Yeah.
so we could dirty them up and make them look like homeless on the street people.
Whoa.
And that, to me, was really interesting, because you are one-on-one with someone who is less advantaged than you. And we were talking, and I'm dirtying this guy down, and I said, yeah, I worked on this TV show in Hawaii. He goes, oh, was it Lost? I go, yeah, how do you know? He says, I watch Lost. Just because I'm homeless doesn't mean I can't go see things. Yes. And it really it attacked my compassionate side. So I always try to recreate life around me and life that I've observed. Mm-hmm. So I've been a big fan of looking at people. From a young age, I was just observant. And I think that's, a ground level foundation that someone in makeup or even in the film business should be observant of everything around them, because you want to create reality. And you do have to put a little cinematic twist or bump on things, but being an artist, you have to look at many avenues so you can complete what you're setting out to do.
Yeah, and to have it be real, authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, V, you shared some stories with us last time you were here, but we would love to hear some more. I mean, you've both shared some already, but what else you got? We want more.
I don't know. What? You got to ask me something.
Okay,
I don't know what to say.
The craziest experience you had working on anything, where you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, or, maybe challenging, or maybe like, oh my gosh, this was a lot of fun. Like, it started off as one thing, it ended up completely different.
Ooh. I don't know.
One of your favorites?
I think one of my worst experiences in my life just came to mind. That's something that turned out completely different, and I'm not going to talk about those.
No.
When you do have a bad experience, you always gauge the current experience against that, so it's not so bad.
Hey, I like that positivity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Yes.
You don't have to talk about it. You can just use that as a gauge. It helps me get through the day sometimes. If I hit a bump in a makeup or a bump with a producer or an actor, I use past experiences that at the time seemed horrible and worse. And I go, it's really not so bad. You want to tell them about the upside down neck on Lost Boys?
Oh, yeah. What was that from?
On Ed Herman, we put
it on upside down?
And Greg Canham had designed the pieces, and he walked in and he goes, something's off about that.
That's where the upside down neck was.
The neck, on the age neck on the vampire version of Ed Herman was upside down. It was a long day, and it was late at night.
And it's hard to tell sometimes, too.
If you didn't sculpt it.
If you didn't sculpt it, and it just sort of looked, and it was like kind of, it was like weird anyway, because he was a vampire, so it wasn't like, I don't know, it's probably a bad thing.
No, I feel like it happens. I don't have personal experience doing that, but I can imagine.
Well, it's never happened again, I'll tell you that much.
Now, you both are Academy Award-winning special effects artists. So what kind of advice would you have for those eager to jump into this industry? What kind of, lessons have you learned along the way?
You go, Steve.
Run the other direction. No, I think because the education system has improved so much, we're pretty much self-taught, or someone who took us aside and took us under their wing and showed us how to do things. Yeah. Or we just looked at pictures and were able to absorb that. Now you have so much available to you, whether it's online, which is a little dodgy because it doesn't show you all the crossing the T's and dotting the I's. A good makeup school or education is a good place to go. When I was looking for a place to pass on my skills, I looked at a couple of different avenues. I've taught at the union classes for my local before, usually a weekend class. So I cut my teeth on the teaching process. And not too long after I decided to retire, from full-time work, V joined cinema makeup school. So I contacted her and said, I'd like to teach a little bit. And going there, you see, always look how things can constantly be improved, and you can help that. And because I didn't want to work full-time, it's a matter of juggling it around and passing on what you can to the teachers that exist, so we can bring new things to the table. And there's constantly new materials being developed and new techniques. And fortunately, I stepped out right when a lot of those things were at their peak, and there's still new things coming about. But at least I can help pass those things along. And what I can also bring, and what V can also bring, is we have stories from the set. You know, how to deal with the producer, how to deal with the difficult actor, how to spot a really bad situation before it happens. You know, I've seen makeup artists who are great at what they do, but they're terrible people persons.
Yeah, I feel like you have to have that balance of
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, and most of the time, I would much rather, I would prefer to work with somebody who's really good with people.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're locked in a little box all day, you know, all morning long. And, you know, you have to get along with the people that are in that room with you. So, I mean, to be in there with an arrogant, you know, artist who's really fabulous is not a preferred thing, really, because then you have to deal with all the ego and stuff. I'd rather deal with somebody who's a pretty good makeup artist who gets along with everybody, because if there is a mistake made, we could fix it, you know. But that never usually happens, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just nice to be with people that are, you know, better with people, you know, that like to work as a team, as opposed to, you know, I'm fabulous, you know, I can do it all.
I'm a diva.
Yeah, I'm a diva. Yeah, no divas.
No.
No divas.
What advice would you give aspiring?
Well, you know, it's something I always tell, even, you know, like our graduates and stuff. It's like, well, how do I get a job? And I said, well, you know, first of all, we have like great help with job placements, because we have a job, you know, a job roster that we put up every day with new jobs on it all the time. But, you know, nobody's going to hand you your job. You got to go out and get it. You got to hustle. So I just say, and I tell them, I said, you know, a lot of times you're going to have to work for free a little bit. So, you know what? When you go to that job, that free job, you're going to meet somebody who's going to probably give you another job and another job.
Right.
And that's, you keep meeting people that are going to help you get to your next job, and eventually you're going to start making money at it. You know, you're going to start getting paid, because when you start off, you're getting all your, I can't think of the word because
You're
I'm
kind of
so
paying your
tired.
dues along
well,
the
yeah,
way.
but you're getting experience, and you have to get experience somewhere, because that's the only way you're going to keep getting jobs and start getting paid well, is to get all that experience. So I just tell them, never turn down a job. Doesn't matter if it's free. You know, what are you going to do? Sit at home, watch TV?
Yeah.
Get out there and make some mistakes while you're not getting paid. Because once you start getting paid, you start making mistakes. That's when you don't get hired again.
Exactly.
But, you know, you got a newbie and they're for free and they're doing a pretty damn good job. All right.
Yeah.
Get that experience, kids.
My apartment looked like a laboratory when I was single. You know, I was hired off of a job. I was recommended by Rick Baker for another film, a werewolf film called The Howling. And Rob Bottin came to my apartment that night, dropping off molds on the way to Greg Canham's house. Walked in, and I'm airbrushing masks in my kitchen, and my apartment is full of masks and stuff, and he hired me on the spot.
Wow.
And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a start.
It's
And that led to other things.
networking like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. They have to network.
Yeah.
And that's how you get ahead.
You live, eat, breathe makeup or makeup
Yeah.
effects or masks. When I first met Rick, he said, go away for a year, sculpt, lay hair, paint masks, make molds, and then let me know that you're ready to show me something. And that's what I did.
And that's how you get experience. That's why a lot of the guys that come out of the labs a lot of times are really good at doing all kinds of stuff that maybe a regular makeup artist isn't, because they were someplace where they had a chance to perform that every day repeatedly, you know. They're constantly painting rubber or painting whatever. You know, now it's so much easier because silicone is like, you almost don't have to paint it. But, you know, back when we started, it was all foam latex. And you have to paint foam latex because it just looks like a piece of white rubber otherwise.
Yes.
So, you know, they really had to learn how to paint back then. And it's something that, you know, I hope doesn't become a lost art.
Yeah. I feel especially, you know, in every creative field, you have to learn how everything was done before in case something doesn't work out. It's like, oh, let's go back to the basics.
Well, we had to do that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
What would you say is something that people have no idea about in this field? Like, they assume, like, oh, okay, well, it's this. But it's like when you really started getting in there and working in there, you're like, this is not what I thought it would be. And it could be really good. or different?
Well, time management is a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, cutting corners when you need to, not painting with a tiny brush, doing this. Sometimes it's the broad strokes.
Yeah,
that
they get
gets
into
it.
a microcosm and they just
Yeah.
like stay in one little spot and they forget that there's a whole bloody face there, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So they have to like really, they have to step, you know, I always step back and look at it. And it's always good to be looking at it in the mirror because that's another thing that people don't realize. It's like what you, as a makeup artist, you don't want to stand in front of your person. You want to stand off to the side because you want to see what they look like in the mirror because what they look like in the mirror is what the camera sees. So always step off to the side. Always be looking at your client, your actor in the mirror because that's what you're going to see on camera because it looks different when you look at him. You wouldn't think it would, but it does.
I also feel like that's advice for people doing their own makeup. I feel like I do that myself, except that, like, obviously I'm looking at a mirror. But, like, getting that chance to step back and kind of look at the bigger picture, and you're like, wow, okay, this turned out way more intense than I wanted it to, or I could, you know, like, liven it up a little bit more. I feel like special effects and makeup in general really applies to so many parts of, you know, life. It's pretty much everything. Final question for you guys. When did you realize that's what I want to do? Like, when was that moment that you're like, hey, people do that for a living and I want to do that?
I was lucky. My next door neighbor was a makeup man when I was a little kid.
Oh, wow.
And I used to love horror movies, and I would tell him, I was 5 years old, and I said, I want to do what you do when I grow up, Mr. Latito.
Oh, I love that.
And I did it. I was
Yeah.
told I couldn't. My entire life I was, well, up until I finally got in. But because, number one, there was no women who did it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he never helped me either, which is kind of a bummer. But, yeah, I knew
did
when
it.
I was a little kid I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why, and my mother didn't know either. She said, oh, my poor baby thinks every day is Halloween.
I mean, isn't it though?
Well, it is for us.
Yeah.
I was a big Halloween fan when I was a kid, and I started making spook houses in my garage when I was like 9 or 10 years old and charging a quarter for kids to come in and have ghosts on strings,
Nice.
and I'd stuff clothes and make dummies, and then I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to paint and do things. So as I got older, I went to high school and went through a commercial art program and thought I was going to be a commercial artist, and the circus came to town. So I
Ran
auditioned.
away with the circus.
I went to an audition, which I thought was a week at the circus. You know, they put makeup on you, and you jump out of a car, and you're with the clowns. Found out it was for the circus school in Florida. So I got hot on that idea and kept coming back every day and meeting all the clowns. And the guy said, you got to write a lot of letters to them and bring those painter stilts that you brought in. I had a cousin who manufactured stilts. So I was tagged as, oh, this guy walks on stilts and he likes makeup and da-da-da. So I got accepted. And the very first week in the clown college, I was 18. I just left home, got on a bus, and went to Florida. And one of our instructors who was teaching clown makeup got an offer to come to be a makeup artist in
that
Hollywood.
Keith?
Keith Crary.
Oh, and he just passed
He
away.
just passed away.
Lord bless him.
And he did the most beautiful white face clown makeup. And I talked to him a little bit, but then he left, and I didn't know why. And someone said, well, he got a job as a makeup artist. And the light went on. And I spent 4 years with the circus, touring all over the country. And by the time 6 months went by, we were in New York City. I bought my first makeup book and went to Bob Kelly Cosmetics and bought makeup. Then we came back to Los Angeles, met my friend Keith again, who took me to NBC to show. I got to see him do makeup on Days of Our Lives, so I started doing makeup on the Showgirls for practice.
Oh my
And it all led on. So I spent, 4 years on the circus practicing my craft until it was time to cut the string and come to
I
Hollywood.
didn't know you did the showgirls on the circus. That's
why I learned
awesome.
beauty makeup. So
That's so cool.
So I learned the lashes and the rhinestones and
sure.
stuff. And if you screwed up, it was only 20 feet away from the audience, so it was okay, and they could help me. So it was a safe way to learn.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And I just, became enthralled about this whole Hollywood
I've known you for
makeup
30-something years, and I never knew that. For crying out loud. See?
Oh, well,
I
you
just learned something new today.
I used to make myself up in my little room on the train as a bum, or I ran foam latex in the
Hobo.
oven, and we would go out where the bums and hobos were. Me and one of the other guys, I'd make us up, and people would leave. They go, I don't. These guys are too creepy for us, and yeah, we ran a big risk there. But it was you're young and you do anything. It's like your college years. You try to do anything, to not get in trouble, but test the water. And it was right after Planet of the Apes was a TV series.
Oh my gosh.
Star Wars came out.
Yeah.
And I came out to Hollywood and got to meet a guy named Tom Berman, who had the very first makeup school with John Chambers, who created Planet of the Apes. And Tom was his apprentice. So he passed on a lot of that knowledge to me. And I worked in his studio off and on for several years and opened my own studio, and it kind of went down, and eventually I was able to get in the makeup union. And then I could work with V, because she was just ahead of me in that zone. I was stuck in the non-union world. We did one little non-union movie together called Slapstick.
Yeah.
With Jerry Lewis and Madeline Kahn.
Oh, wow.
And Marty Feldman.
And I had made the prosthetics for it, and we needed someone to make up Madeline. So V and I and Jerry Lewis and Madeline Kahn sat in a little room doing makeups 3 hours a day for several weeks, and that was like our own little world. And that's when that's when Prozaid first came out, when Telesis first came out, and we were using rubber mask grease paint.
I don't remember all that stuff.
It was called Glue A and Glue B.
Yeah.
Remember that? And
wow.
So, and then I started collaborating with Dick Smith. It's just like this whole world exploded, and I dove into it. And then I met my wife and got married just before Slapstick, and she was my good luck charm, because I was struggling until I got married, and then bam, it took off. I guess the universe picked up with me, and V lived down the street from us.
Oh, how fun.
So V's been kind of in and out of my life all my whole career. And it's kind of nice to end up working together at the makeup school.
And coming to Sideshow and talking to us together.
I'm blown away by this place.
Yeah,
this is
me
a
too.
cool
This is
place.
like walking into a candy store.
We want to come here and live.
All right, well, we could
just wanna
probably
live
arrange
here.
something. We got you. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
and
you.
talking with us
Yeah.
and sharing so many of your stories. And thank you guys for joining us. And don't forget to let your geek side show.
Hey, did you like that video? Be sure to subscribe by clicking the S icon on your screen and click that bell icon to be notified whenever a new video is posted. If you'd like more info on the items featured in this video, click the link provided under Product Info. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to let your geek side show.